sprawling brownstone in Boston's Beacon Hill. In this family, success wasn't simply measured in dollars, but in corner offices, legacy, and who carried the Grayson name the highest. I sat quietly near the far end of the long mahogany table, letting the conversation wash over me. My family boasted about their roles at Grayson Logistics, the company my grandfather had built from nothing after arriving in America with a single suitcase. "Another record quarter," my older brother Nathan proclaimed, puffing out his chest and adjusting the cufflinks that gleamed against his navy suit, though of course, some of us actually have to go into the office to keep things running. The jab was aimed straight at me, obviously. The daughter who'd abandoned her VP post 4 years ago at the age of 28. The supposed black sheep who preferred working from home instead of clocking in at corporate headquarters. "Olivia, darling." My mother's voice carried a silky sweetness that barely concealed the steel underneath. "Still doing that, what do you call it, independent digital consulting?" "Something like that," I murmured, glancing discreetly at my phone beneath the linen tablecloth. A new message from my team blinked on the screen. "Final documents ready. Project Frostline is cleared for execution." "You know," my father interjected, swirling a glass of 12-year bourbon, "there's still a spot waiting for you at Grayson Logistics if you ever decide to come back to the real business world." "Even in HR or marketing," my sister-in-law Vanessa chimed in, grinning as she toyed with her diamond necklace. "Though you'd actually have to show up to an office and perhaps dress the part." She waved a manicured hand at my simple, emerald green blouse and tailored trousers, a far cry from her designer dress shimmering under the chandelier's light. If they only knew I'd worn this exact outfit while negotiating the covert acquisition of their company's controlling stake. "I suppose working remotely just suits my style," I replied lightly, taking a small sip of water. "Style?" Nathan scoffed. "Running some little freelance venture hardly counts as style, Liv. While you're playing entrepreneur, the rest of us are busy steering a billion-dollar company." I bit back a smile as my mind flashed to the paperwork waiting for my final signature. The documents that would make me the owner of that billion-dollar company they were so proudly boasting about. Vanessa tilted her head with mock curiosity. "So tell me, Olivia, how much do these remote consultants actually earn these days? Enough to afford, say, a real office? Or is it all just coffee shops and laptops?" "I manage," I said smoothly, picturing my private office perched 32 floors above downtown Boston, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Charles River. An office they'd never seen because none of them had ever bothered to ask what I really did. My phone buzzed again, discreetly vibrating against my thigh. "Stock transfer confirmed. You hold controlling interest. Ready for phase 2. My father raised his glass, oblivious. "Well then, a toast to Grayson Logistics, a real company, run by real executives who understand the value of tradition and proper business practices." I lifted my glass with a polite smile, my pulse steady. If only they knew that by sunrise, the tradition they worshipped would belong entirely to me. The very traditions my family worshipped were the same ones that left Grayson Logistics exposed to a quiet takeover. The same rigid practices that had created blind spots big enough for a determined investor to slip through unnoticed. "Speaking of the company," Nathan said, leaning forward and lowering his voice as if revealing state secrets, "we should talk about the upcoming board meeting." "The one Olivia never attends," Vanessa cut in smoothly, tossing her hair over her shoulder, "because she's not a real executive anymore. Just a... what did you call it?" Nathan sneered. "Remote worker." My phone lit up with a new message. "As Grayson, the transfer is finalized. You now hold 51% of Grayson Logistics. Congratulations." I reached for my glass of sparkling water, taking a slow sip to hide the grin pulling at the corners of my mouth. 4 years of meticulous planning. 4 years of letting them believe I'd failed at corporate life. 4 years spent quietly building an empire while they scoffed at my so-called little online business. "Actually," I said, my voice steady as I set my glass back on the table, "I think I'll attend this board meeting." The table fell into absolute silence. My father's bourbon glass hovered halfway to his lips, forgotten. "You?" Nathan choked out, eyes bulging. "But You're not even in the company anymore. About that, I pulled my tablet from my purse and opened the documents I'd just received. I think you'll find that some things have changed. My father leaned forward, brow knotted. What are you talking about, Olivia? I met his gaze calmly. Perhaps we should discuss the fact that Arcadia Holdings has just acquired a controlling interest in Grayson Logistics. Or, I paused, savoring the moment, I should say my company just acquired a controlling interest. The silence was exquisite. The only sound was the quiet tick of the antique clock over the fireplace. Sometimes, the sweetest revenge isn't just proving them wrong, it's buying the empire they claimed you could never handle. And I was just getting started. The chaos that exploded around the table was even better than I'd imagined. Nathan lurched forward so quickly he knocked over his wine glass, sending red liquid splattering across the white tablecloth. Vanessa's perfectly polished composure fractured as she stammered wordlessly. My father's face darkened, turning a dangerous shade of crimson. "What do you mean, your company?" he roared, voice trembling with barely contained fury. "Arcadia Holdings is a multi-billion-dollar investment firm." "Yes," I replied smoothly. "The one I built while all of you thought I was just playing entrepreneur from my living room." My mother clutched at the delicate pearls around her neck, a nervous tic she'd had since her debutante days. "But that's impossible," she whispered. "You've been doing nothing for years." "Actually," I said, pulling up more documents on my tablet, "I've been extremely busy, building an investment empire, acquiring undervalued companies, and watching Grayson Logistics walk right into the exact traps I knew you would." Nathan pushed back his chair so forcefully it toppled to the floor behind him. "This is absurd," he barked. "Arcadia Holdings is run by O.L. Stone." I smiled, a slow, triumphant smile. "By professional name, yes. Did none of you ever wonder what those initials stood for?" I tilted the screen toward them so they could read the full legal name. Olivia Lauren Stone Grayson. "I took Mom's maiden name for business," I added lightly. "Didn't want any family connections clouding my success." Stick around and hit that subscribe button, because this dinner table drama was only the beginning. And trust me, you'll want to see how I handle my first board meeting as the new owner of Grayson Logistics. My phone buzzed again, the soft vibration almost lost amid the stunned silence that hung over the dining room like heavy drapes. "Legal team prepared to proceed with management restructuring, awaiting your instructions." Across the polished marble floor, Vanessa's designer stiletto tapped a rapid, nervous rhythm. But you work from home," she stammered, her voice sharp with disbelief. "In sweatpants. You've missed the last 3 charity galas." "Because I was in Tokyo," I replied evenly, folding my hands on the table, "closing a billion-dollar acquisition. It's amazing how much you can accomplish when you're not preoccupied with being seen at all the right social events." "Dad," Nathan blurted, turning to her father, his face flushed. "Do something. She can't just take over." My father sat motionless, staring down at his phone, where I could practically see the flurry of urgent texts and emails from the board streaming in. "It's legal," he whispered, his voice hollow. She really did it. She bought us out right under our noses." "While you were all laughing about my little online business," I continued, a trace of steel creeping into my tone, "I was building something far larger than Grayson Logistics ever dreamed of becoming. Arcadia Holdings owns companies across 3 continents. Grayson is simply the newest acquisition." "But why, Olivia?" my mother whispered, her voice smaller than I'd ever heard it. "Why didn't you tell us?" I leaned back in my chair, exhaling slowly, memories flooding in. The countless family dinners where my choices were belittled, the snide comments about working from home, the dismissive smirks when I tried to speak about my projects. "Because, Mom," I said gently, "none of you ever asked. You were all too busy assuming I'd failed to realize that I was succeeding." I swept my gaze around the table, meeting each stunned pair of eyes in turn. "You were so focused on corner offices and designer suits that you never understood the real secret. True power doesn't need to show off." Another message flashed across my phone screen. Board members requesting emergency meeting. Rumors of management shakeup causing market jitters. I rose from my chair, smoothing my emerald blouse and gathering my tablet. Well, I said lightly, I've a company to run. I paused, letting a small, knowing smile tug at my lips. Actually, several companies. The board meeting tomorrow should be interesting. You can't just walk in and take over, Nathan shouted, shoving his chair backward so violently it scraped across the marble. I'm the CFO. For now, I replied softly, though you may want to review your performance metrics. Arcadia has a very strict policy about merit-based positions. I let that hang in the air before adding, no more promotions, simply because your last name is Grayson? Vanessa's face crumpled as she stared at me in disbelief. But the company parties, the gala events, our positions, all of that, I said firmly, will be evaluated based on actual business value. It's incredible how much money a company saves when you cut out unnecessary executive perks. My father finally found his voice, though it trembled. Olivia, please, we can discuss this as a family. Family? I raised an eyebrow. Like when you all discussed my career choices for me? Or maybe you mean the time you told the board I was too fragile for corporate life. I slipped my tablet into my handbag and turned toward the door. Let's just say, tomorrow, we'll see whose version of family business truly wins. We were just trying to help, my mother insisted, her voice trembling as she twisted her pearl bracelet around her wrists. No, I said gently, shaking my head. You were trying to control. You wanted success to look exactly how you pictured it. Neat titles, expensive suits, the right cocktail parties. I let my eyes sweep around the table, taking in their stunned faces. Well, guess what? I continued. Success doesn't need designer labels or corner offices. Sometimes it works from home, in sweatpants, building an empire while no one's watching. I gathered my tablet and clutch, standing slowly. The Grayson family crest shimmered on the silverware around me, a symbol that used to intimidate me. Not anymore. Oh, and Nathan, I added as I turned toward the doorway, about those record quarters you were bragging about, just wait until you see what happens when someone who actually understands modern business takes over. The silence that followed me out of the dining room was more satisfying than any dessert they could have served. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't just proving them wrong. It's buying the company they claimed you couldn't handle and running it better than they ever dreamed possible. And I was going to enjoy every second of it, preferably while working from home in my favorite sweatpants. The next morning, I arrived at Grayson Logistics headquarters for the first time in 4 years. The sleek glass building towered over Boston's financial district, sunlight bouncing off mirrored panels like a spotlight on my return. The security guard at the lobby turnstiles blinked at me in surprise. He was used to the disgraced daughter, tiptoeing in during mandatory family gatherings, not striding in like she owned the place. "Miss Grayson," he stammered, glancing at his tablet. "You're, not on the approved access list." "Check again," I said, handing him my new ID badge. Right under my name were 2 bold letters. The elevator ride up to the executive floor was tense, filled with whispers and sideways glances. Word had spread fast about Arcadia Holdings' takeover, but hardly anyone had connected it to the wayward daughter who supposedly couldn't handle corporate life. I stepped into the boardroom precisely 3 minutes before the emergency meeting was scheduled to begin. Nathan was already there, leaning over the table, hissing frantic whispers to 2 other directors. Vanessa sat rigidly in her chair, her eyes darting anxiously over her phone screen, probably checking her stock portfolio every 10 seconds. My father occupied the seat at the head of the table, the one he'd claimed for 30 years. "Good morning," I said softly as I entered. Every conversation stopped mid-sentence. Board members who'd dismissed me for years were suddenly hanging on my every word. You can't sit there," Nathan sputtered as I approached my father's seat. "That's the CEO's chair." "Exactly," I replied, placing my laptop on the polished table. I turned my gaze to my father. "Dad, I believe that's my chair now." The look on his face as he slowly rose, his hands gripping the table's edge for support, almost made every moment of the past 4 years worth it. I opened my laptop, projecting the first slide onto the screen. Let's discuss the changes Arcadia Holdings will be implementing. Changes? Vanessa's voice cracked. What changes? I clicked to the next slide, boldly titled Grayson Logistics Restructuring Plan. First, I began, my voice firm. We'll be conducting a complete audit of all executive positions, performance reviews, contribution assessments, merit evaluations, no exceptions. Nathan's face went pale as paper. But we're family, Vanessa stammered, clutching her phone like it might shield her. Funny how that word only matters when you're scared of losing something, I replied coolly. Was I family when you told the board I was emotionally unfit for leadership? My phone buzzed. Additional acquisitions ready for review. Arcadia Holdings. Second, I continued, my voice crisp. All executive perks are suspended, effective immediately. Gasps echoed through the boardroom. It means private jets, spa business retreats, and yes, Vanessa, the monthly shopping allowance. Vanessa gasped. And third, I said, pausing deliberately, we're introducing modern work structures, including remote options for all qualified staff. That's not how business is run, my father blurted out, pounding his fist on the table. No, I corrected him gently, that's not how you ran business. While you clung to old traditions, I built a global company without needing a corner office. Turns out, success doesn't require mahogany desks or designer suits. I tapped my screen, revealing my next slide. Arcadia Holdings portfolio. Silence spread across the room as logos and numbers flashed overhead. X. Billions, one board member whispered. Oh, built from my home office, I confirmed. The one you mocked. It's amazing what happens when you focus on results instead of appearances. My father sagged into his chair, no longer the CEO's throne. Why didn't you tell us, he asked, voice trembling. All this time? Would you have listened? I asked softly, or tried to force me into your mold again. I paused. Sometimes the surest path to success is letting people underestimate you, until it's too late. Another buzz. Global partners notified, stock up 30%. I stood, smoothing my emerald blouse. I have an empire to run. Those who want to stay at Grayson Logistics must adapt to a merit-based culture. Those who don't? I cast a glance at Nathan and Vanessa. Will find generous severance packages. I turned toward the door, then paused with one final thought. Oh, and Nathan? The coffee machine in the break room needs refilling. Might be time to learn some new skills. The look on his face was priceless. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't just taking over the family empire. It's proving that real success doesn't require their approval to change the world. And I built it all from my home office, in comfortable clothes, creating something far bigger than their traditions could ever imagine. Because sometimes, the biggest power move is letting them think you've failed until the day you own their definition of success. If you've ever felt underestimated, I'd love your support. Like, comment, and subscribe so we can rewrite what success looks like together. Drop me a message and tell me what you'd say to someone who doubted you. Remember, your path doesn't need their permission. Build quietly, move smart, and one day surprise the world. That's how we turn their doubt into our legacy. And I'm proof that it can be done, even from a home office.